Hey, y'all. Welcome to Simple Conversations. This is KJ.
Hey, and it's Alice. So pause us for a minute, grab you something to drink, come back, sit down, and be a part of this conversation.
Because we have a lot to say. Welcome to Simple Conversations. So, y'all, listen, this is our disclaimer. We're not here to give you any advice or tell you how to live your life.
Well, maybe just a little.
We're still trying to figure this thing out ourselves. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Simple Conversations where grace meets strength. Hey, Alice.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am good. I've been processing this podcast. How are you?
I've been processing this podcast 4 months, actually.
It does seem like it's been a long time. We've been talking about this one for a long time and kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And we're not putting it off anymore.
Actually, let's just go ahead and be honest and say I kept putting it off and putting it off.
Okay.
Putting it off.
Well, you can take it if you want to, but I mean, I wasn't pushing you either. Okay.
I appreciate that. And really, it's because it's heavy.
It is.
And it's a lot. And it's something that is like we are passionate about.
Right.
And we care about this topic, these topics.
We do.
Yeah.
We do a lot. We have spent many hours of our friendship discussing these things that we're going to talk about today. So listeners, here's our disclaimer. This may not be popular conversation for some of you, and that's okay. We understand that. If we were sitting at lunch together, it may be a little different because then you could interject and ask questions or, share your perspective. But today you're just going to get ours. So I was going to title this Why I Left the Church. I don't know what we're actually going to end up with. It'll be you'll know obviously when we post it what it is, but Why I Left the Church but Not Jesus. That's what I was going to call it. We felt like that might be a little controversial. I thought it would actually draw more listeners. So I don't know. Are you listening just because of what the title was? Do you feel the title? Maybe you feel the title. Maybe you're like, I left too. Why did you leave? Let's see if we have something in common. So I do want to say this podcast is not to give you permission to leave your church or place of worship, because what we both will tell you is that you have to hear from God for yourself.
Yes.
And follow the leading of Holy Spirit in all of your dealings. So where you attend, what you do while you attend, if you don't attend, all of that, like whatever that looks like for you, you have to follow the Lord for yourself.
Yes.
I will say that my family stopped it. Okay, wait, where are we? We are in April of 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, so my family, we stopped attending church November of 2018.
Okay.
And we may or may not get into all of those reasons, but what I think this time away has done for me, and then we can get into the meat of it, is to give me some clarity on my relationship with God.
Yes.
The truth of who God is for me.
Yes.
What my calling is, what it's not. What giving really looks like, what it doesn't. I think in the time that we live in, we have heard a lot. I speak of KJ and I specifically about people going through what they would call their deconstruction of faith journey. And I think we talked about this just a little bit early on in one of our podcasts, but I would call it a reconstruction of faith.
I agree.
Yeah, we might have been deconstructing, but I actually feel like I was probably deconstructing for a long time without even knowing I was deconstructing. And so what I had to do when we walked away was reconstruct.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And let God rebuild in me and rebuild me.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say I am right now. I'm still in reconstructing. I'm still in the figuring out. I had some notes that I found in the whole transition of moving offices with one of the places that we left. I make it sound like we've left so many, but we really have left no one that we had a really long relationship with, and I had notes, and at the top I just called it disillusioned. There were the things that I just felt very disillusioned about. And so I felt it was an interesting word, disillusioned.
And that was in your notes from.
It was at the very top of my notes.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think they were my
notes that you had taken like in Bible study or at a Sunday service.
No, I think there were notes because I was about to have a meeting with a staff person, and I think they were my notes. I think it was like a second meeting, like there'd already been a meeting, and this was like a follow-up meeting. And so I was making notes, and I think I felt very disillusioned after the first meeting.
Oh, I see.
And that was at the top of my notes. And then these were the things that I just couldn't make sense of, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
So interesting. So I will just say for me that I really wanted to title this Things I Don't Understand About the Church. Not necessarily. I have actually not been to very many churches as an adult because I just really came back to the Lord, like in 2014. I kind of wanted to reconnect in 1994, but really did not understand having a personal relationship. Like I'm not sure that I was ever really taught that until recently. So, yeah, I've visited maybe, 10 churches as an adult, and have gone to 2 regularly, and chose to leave both of those. So, but there's still, there's a lot of things that I don't understand about the church that just don't make sense to me, that don't align with the Jesus that I read about in my Bible, the Jesus that I have in my heart. And that's it's disturbing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's disturbing to me. So, like you, I believe that my relationship is actually grown deeper, and I have a greater sense of grace and mercy being outside the walls of the church. And maybe that's just because I've had to be more intentional about studying, about spending the time, and making time, and instead of doing everything I could for a church and checking that off the list.
Right.
Like I really feel like that there are people in my life that's what they do, is they go on Wednesday and they go on Sunday and they check it off the list, and now they've been to church, and now they've, they know God and they have Jesus in their heart, but then Monday morning so anyway.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I was listening to another podcast, the Bible Binge, which I love their podcast, and they were doing I don't even remember what the topic was. It was kind of recently, but they were talking about people who had left the church, and Jamie Golden, sorry, I was trying to get her name in front of my face, is one of the hosts of that. And she had read, is it Barnum that does all the studies? Barnum, is that right? I feel like that's right. I think it's Barnum is the name of it. But anyway, Barna, maybe it's Barna Group. And they do lots of studies on everything. And she was quoting one of the studies, and it actually talked about more, when you think about who is leaving the church, who would you say, what generation, what group comes to mind? What do you think? Who leaves more than anybody else? Would you have a guess?
I would say young people.
Yeah. See, I would think the same thing. It's actually baby boomers.
Well, and now that you say that, that's very interesting, because I think the clients that I have left the church are baby boomers, and it's because they don't like the change that the church is going through. They don't like the new music. They don't like the new young leaders that are wearing jeans to church. Like they
Right.
think that, in order to be, there on Sunday morning, like you've got to have on a suit jacket and a tie and pantyhose
Oh gosh,
and
I hadn't worn pantyhose in 15
bless the
years.
Lord.
Thank you, God, for freedom.
Yes, total freedom, right?
I
Total
remember those
freedom.
days, though. I do remember those days. Good gracious.
Yeah, yeah. So that's very interesting. So it's the boomers leaving church. And so does this research group, do they tell you why baby boomers are leaving church?
They did, and I don't remember. I just
Okay, sorry.
remembered that part. So we'd have to go look it up. Maybe I'll look it up and add it to the show notes. Let me
Okay,
do that.
okay, okay. So what are some of the things that are on your heart when it comes to why you left a church? And again, full disclaimer, like we are not against church.
Nope. Not
I have all intentions of, once I'm
really.
fully vaccinated, to find a church. Um, I don't know how that's going to go with a whole different perspective of what I have now with reconstruction of my faith.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to let that stop me, because I do believe in the community and the fellowship and the, some people say the accountability. If being accountable to God is not enough for me, I don't need to be accountable to people inside of four walls that they call a
Right.
church.
Right.
So, but I do miss that.
Yeah, I do too. I miss the relationships. I miss worshiping together.
Yes.
Um, there's a different dynamic that's present when, when there's multiple people worshiping together, when their hearts are joined. I
Yes.
believe in that, the unity of that moment. So when I went back and looked at my history, I have been a part, functioning, serving, teaching member of a church since 94, and for about 22 years.
Okay.
Is the best math I can come up with. And there are 7 churches. Now, remember, for our listeners, Tim was an active duty Marine, and so he did move around a little bit. And so this is from Northern Virginia, North Carolina, back to Virginia, then North Carolina, and back to Virginia. So kind of moving around. So 22 years. So what were the things that I saw in those churches that were problems? Is that where we want to start? I think, well, I have lots. I wouldn't say which bigger than the others, but a lack of transparency on the finances is huge to me. When not having a budget for the different sections of the church, the teaching, you need teaching materials, you need refreshments, like whatever they are, like you need plates in the kitchen if you have a kitchen, like you need trash bags, like there has to be budgeted amount. Not tell me what you need. No, I don't want to tell you what I need. I don't know what I need. You tell me I have $20, I'll make $20 work. Okay. Like I just, and then I should never be afraid to ask you where the money is going. Like, what's it paying for? I just think that it should be open. And why is it not open? Why is it not transparent? If we're a family and we're doing life together, then, and you want me to give, which is a whole area of manipulation, I think, on so many levels, but I struggle when there's not transparency. I'll say that.
I'll agree. I will tell you that when I first came back to the church, and I'm using air quotes, that I had the strong opinion that I don't really care what they're doing with the money. I'm being obedient, and they're going to have to, they'll, you know,
Have to be accountable to God.
They'll have to be accountable to God with what they do with the money. But I don't feel like that anymore. I feel like I want to know, how much is the light bill? How, like, what is the budgeting? Where does the
Is
money
there
go?
a budget?
Yeah, and look, I want to know how much the leaders are taking away from there too.
Are we being good stewards?
Are we being good stewards of what's coming in the house? Because
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I think leaders should not take money, but I think they should get paid. I mean,
Sure, I do.
I have no qualm with that whatsoever. I also do believe, and I might get some kickback on this one, but I think leaders are better when they're dual career people, like when they work outside of the church and lead in the church. And I know that that's a lot to carry. I think that's why having a staff of people who rotate around and everybody's got a job to lighten the load is important. I think it makes you way more relevant to what's happening in the world when you don't just live in the church bubble. I think it's really easy to become unaware, disconnected to what people face in, I'm going to say, real life when you aren't out there in real life.
Yeah.
That's just a side note. And I have experienced that with some of the places that we had been a part of. So on the money, let's go ahead and hit the money hard because money is a thing. When there's a recommended amount of an offering, I don't love that. I don't love that you send letters to people asking for money without asking the people how they are even doing during a global pandemic. I don't love that. I don't love that the money is often manipulated and you sow seeds for this and that. And I personally, okay, I believe in giving. Let me preface this. Let me make this really clear. I believe in giving.
Yes.
I believe that everything I have belongs to God. I believe my time, my gifts, my service, my money, I believe all of it belongs to God. I believe that when he says give to that, do to that, whether it's your time, your money, your whatever, that's what you need to do.
Yes.
Okay. That being very clear. I think we limit people by telling them they're supposed to give 10%.
I think so too, but also too, if we're gonna, it does limit people.
It does,
and also too, 10% was under the law.
It was, and so was sacrificing animals. So why do we still do one and not the other? And about 2 years ago, I went away to actually study tithing, and I'm not going to get into a theological debate with anybody about it because again, you have to hear from God for yourself, and you have to be okay with the decisions that you make and why you make them. Like, all of that matters. But in all of my research, not once in the New Testament is tithing dollars. It's not money. So like in Matthew, he refers to tithing as garden herbs. In Luke, it's fasting and tithing. Acts tells you to give according to your ability.
Yes.
2 Corinthians says, do just as he has purposed in your heart and do it cheerfully. There's not even a percentage given there. Yes. I think that I need to remember, I can only say that. For me, when we have the 10 commandments from the Old Testament, and then Jesus said, but to look at your brother with hate is to murder, and to look at a woman with lust is to commit adultery. And he holds us to a higher standard. I think tithing is the same thing. We gave 10% in the Old Testament. That's what they gave. They did it to maintain the priest because the priest did not have functioning jobs. It fed them. It cared for them. I don't think we live in that same place today.
No.
And so I think the higher standard is everything I have belongs to God. I give according to, as it says, one according to my ability. One, if you have hungry people in your church and you're still telling them they need to tithe 10%, but they can't pay their rent, that's a problem.
That's a problem. That's a problem.
If they're choosing between buying groceries and paying their tithes, that's a problem.
And if you are the leader of a church and you don't know that you have hungry people in your church, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
And then, you degrade people because they don't come in a suit and tie because they're not giving God's best. They're hungry. They're hungry. Yeah. They may be living in their car parked in the Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their kids are coming hungry. I've seen this. I've seen, working in children's church and having kids show up that were hungry who haven't had breakfast. Like, that's a thing. That's legit. Yeah.
It's legit.
So that's what I would say about the money. I also don't love that we pay musicians, but not teachers or childcare workers. I don't understand where that comes from. I don't know why. And I'm not disking any musician. Like, I love the musicians. I'm not saying they shouldn't be paid. I'm saying I don't understand why they are paid. Why is their gift valued differently than the gift of a teacher or a volunteer that stands at the door in the rain and parks cars? And like, I don't know why one gift is valued higher than the others. I don't love that.
I don't love that either. I really don't. But I know a man to this very day, every Sunday goes to work in a church and plays his saxophone. And he would not be in that church if it were not for him getting paid to play that saxophone. And they sought him out. Yeah. I mean, and that is one thing, like, I don't know what the answer to that is. Because I do believe that, churches just can't pay everybody who serves, and that we're supposed to serve from our heart. Yet, like what you said, I mean, why does a musician get paid to come and sing when the teacher who's, studied and decided what she's going to teach and has, used ink and paper and
PowerPoint and
yeah.
I don't know why we do
activities. Yeah. So, and again, things I don't understand about the church.
Yeah. So,
and that's actually one of the lightest conversations, because
I'm wondering,
when we talk about giving, like, that's one thing I was really very interested in, like, the types of giving, like, because you'll go to some churches and they talk about the tithe and the seed and the offering and the first fruit.
Yeah.
And really, and that's just
and the building fund.
And
then you sow a seed while he's preaching, like, just like all the things. Like, and I'm not discounting that it activates your faith sometimes. Like, I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm not saying that sometimes we give sacrificially. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I don't like it when it's manipulated. I don't like it when there's a double standard. I don't like it when it's not open conversation. I don't like it when we do it just because that's what we've always done.
Yeah.
I don't like any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really believe that in some situations, that is the absolute root of it. It's because this is what we've always done. We don't really know why we do it, but it's just because that's what's always been done.
So now that's the culture of it. And so now, if you're going to, bring in a musician, they expect to get paid. Well, I teach, I expect to get paid from now on too. Like, what? Yeah. No, I don't love that.
I don't love that either.
Okay. On the notes of what we don't love, I don't love membership.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't know why we do it. I never did it until until it mattered that I couldn't vote in church business meetings, which I can't even discuss church business meetings. That's not even on my list. We're just going to have to table that. And I wanted to vote, so I had to join to vote, even though at that point we were faithful attenders, we were faithful tithers, we participated in everything. Had to be a member to vote. I did attend a church in the early 2000s where I don't know if this pastor particularly just had issues with strong women. It's been so hard for me to process because I am a strong personality. I do hear from God for myself, and learning that was very difficult for me because I was kind of labeled a rebellious person because I have a mind of my own. So I'll give you an example of this pastor. So we would sit in church and he would do baby dedications. So I don't know if people listening, if y'all do baby dedications, but this is like where the parents would bring up a baby who is like a newborn, and they would dedicate themselves to raise the child according to the ways of the Lord. And so he would do a baby dedication. And if it was a baby boy, he would say things like, maybe he'll grow up one day and be a pastor, be a missionary, be an evangelist. And when he would do a baby dedication for a baby girl, he would say, or maybe one day she'll marry a pastor, marry an evangelist. And I used to get so mad. And one Sunday, he was doing a baby dedication for a baby girl, and there had already been another event, and we knew we were on our way out the door. Like, we knew Tim was about to take an assignment overseas, and that was my cue that when he took that, I was out of there. I was done. And so I was hanging out for like just a couple weeks left, and he did that baby dedication. And without even thinking, I just out loud said, or be one. Like, I just said that. And the person in front of me turned around and looked at me and said, yeah. Like, I wasn't the only one who thought that. Like, why are you being so sexist?
Yes.
Baby dedication. Like, she can grow up and be all of the things too.
But she wouldn't have been able to do that in that church.
Which is so bizarre because they had a school at this church, and this man's wife ran the school. She was a very strong woman. And so it's bizarre to me that was okay, or that he would have even been that way, like with who his wife was. Anyway, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we left there.
And again, that's another thing that I don't understand. Why don't we see more women in pulpits that are in leadership positions in certain congregation conventions?
Mm-hmm. Because they take Timothy out of context. They take those scriptures out of context. But we were talking about membership. So when we were leaving that church, the pastor, had dinner with Tim and I when we told them we were leaving, and he made that whole conversation about the fact that we were not members. There was a lot more about why we left. That's neither here nor there. Just, it was control stuff. And but he made it all about membership. And for that denomination, it turns out, and we had not been members of this denomination. We, I don't think, had been members of anywhere up to this point until the next place is where we, I think, did our membership. But we found out that his salary was based on membership, not attendance.
What?
Uh-huh. Was that his motivation for all of that? I don't know. But that whole conversation he directed towards me. And it was about the gist of it was why we had never become members. Yeah.
See, and then I wonder, I mean, is that the membership is correlated to tithing 10%? So it's like, okay, so now you're a member. We expect you to tithe 10%.
Yeah.
And when we need a new roof, you're going to be one of the top 10 that we come to.
Right.
we're going to need you to help put a new roof on as well, because now you're a member and you're saying, this building is part of your responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never when I came back to the church in 2014, the church that I was at, I never once thought about becoming a member. The next church that I went to, I thought about it, but then I also thought about the things that I had been seeing just in that church, because really I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
But every single person that I had celebrated that wanted to become a member of that church became a member, and within 6 weeks they were gone. And I didn't understand that.
Wow.
And I did not understand that. And really and truly, the only family that stayed after they became a member were y'all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I did not understand that. And so it didn't, for some reason, it just did not correlate to a healthy relationship to me to be a member.
Yeah.
It was good enough for me that that's where I was worshiping, that's where I was learning, and that's where I was tithing, and that's where I was serving.
Yeah.
And that was, I never felt as if I needed to stand before a congregation and get a picture in a Dollar Tree frame that said that I am, that I have a business relationship
Right.
with this building.
I looked up membership. In fact, I think I have a couple of times. I can't find anything about when it started in our church history, why it started. I can't find anything about it in the Bible, like in the New Testament church. Like there was nothing about membership. Like I don't know. It's like a club. I don't know. And then some
an
people,
elite club. You know what I mean?
some people don't use the word member, they use partner. It's the same thing. It's just semantics. Like you call it a partner, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Okay.
Communion. I don't love when communion is limited to the people who supposedly, I'm doing air quotes now, are saved.
Yeah, because it was everybody.
No, because Judas took communion.
Judas. Yes.
Jesus served Judas communion. And I've read lots of stories about people who communion is what changed their heart.
Yes.
So why would we limit that? Why would you keep the body of Christ from anybody?
Anybody.
Now, scripture does say, and I'm paraphrasing, like to search your heart and do it seriously.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this lightly. Okay. But that's none of your business. That's between them and God.
Yes. That's right.
I think too often we try to make things our business and we try to be God in a situation. I've seen this so many times in church where we had to control something to protect people from themselves. Like, God is big enough to do that.
He is.
There's no mess, no situation, no problem, no anything that I can get myself into, okay, that he's not already fully aware of and can't help me get out.
That's right.
And most likely, I probably needed to get in it because there's a lesson that I got to learn.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to need later.
Yes.
So it's not a big catastrophe. Okay, so there was that one.
Yeah.
I'm still on page 1, by the way.
I know. We're still on page 1, paragraph 1, by the way.
Listeners are
okay. But listen, leaders, if you're listening, leaders in a church, if you're listening, communion is for everybody. And it is up to you as the leader of the church to make sure that everyone sitting under the sound of your voice knows that communion is for them.
And why would it not be? Like,
Why would it? Yeah.
let's just ask ourselves, what's the new question we have? Who does that benefit? Who does it benefit to partake of communion? Everyone. Who does it benefit by withholding communion? Who does that benefit?
Yeah.
Makes some people feel better about themselves, and it categorizes and creates levels of Christianity. I don't even know.
Bless the Lord on my soul.
I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Okay, the last one I have on my page 1, and we'll flip the page, is I don't love it when, as a functioning person, or I don't even want to say a member, but as you know, when that's your place of worship, and you've, especially for those who serve in any leadership role, that there is an expectation that you are to be there every time the doors are open.
Yeah. I totally agree. Really.
And I used to believe that. Now I'm going to tell you, I used to believe that. I used to be that. I was
Okay.
there every time the doors were open. My family was there every time the doors were open. It was our life, so to speak. And I used to have a problem with people who had sports events on Sundays. Their kids had practice. Well, your kid just shouldn't go to practice. Well, okay, let's put all that in perspective now. Because I did think like that. Because I was taught to think like that. Because
Yes.
people around me thought like that. Um, if I fully represent Christ in my life, then I fully represent Christ in my life.
Even at the ball field on Sunday.
Exactly, which means I can do it in the ball field. It's just a season. It's not forever.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I love Jesus less or study less or pray less. It just means I'm not going to be at that event because this is important to my kid.
That's right.
And it can be important to my kid, and Jesus can still be important to my kid, and they can both be important. It's not an either or, it's a both and.
That's right. And listen, I fully believe sometimes that God needs you at the ball field.
Right?
He needs you at the ball field. Anybody ever been to the ball field and seen somebody get thrown out of the park? I mean, God needs you there, you know?
Right. To
Yeah.
be level-headed and display grace and love and kindness to everybody, and be, a good encourager, and to be that person that sits beside the person who needed somebody because they weren't going to church ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what a balanced life looks like spiritually.
Yeah.
It really
Yep.
does. Yeah. You're not balanced spiritually if every single weekend you're at the church from Friday to Sunday and people at your house need you to minister to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you have midweek service, you have small groups, you have a women's group that meets, you have a men's group that meets, you have your kids doing things, you have regular Sunday service. If you sing, you have practice. If you teach, you have study time. Like, if oh my gosh. Okay, so when are you cleaning the toilet at your own house
That's
and
right.
cooking dinner for your family, and
Right.
like reading to your children before they go to bed? And I don't know. I think there has to be a balance, and I don't think anyone else can tell you what that balance is. I'm a life coach, is what I do. I teach people to balance their life, and that looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
We juggle as women, specifically, we juggle. Our life is a balancing act of always juggling glass balls and plastic balls.
Yeah.
You got to know what you can drop and what you can't.
That's right.
So, yeah. Don't
Yeah.
drop the glass balls.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. That's really good. I think the top thing on my list is prejudices in church.
Ooh.
And so I just want to preference this with, I never want to belong to an air quote church
Mhm.
that I don't feel comfortable inviting every single one of my friends to. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Because see, Jesus loved everybody.
Yeah.
He chose down on the cross for everybody. And how dare a leader of a church think that only one type of group belongs in that church.
Yeah.
I don't love that. And I'll tell you specifically the LGBT community.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, I also want to say, that there are a lot of like horrific things, stories in the Bible. Okay.
Yeah.
But all of those stories happened after there was no longer a perfect garden.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the serpent came in the picture, it was no longer a perfect garden. Okay, it was only perfect before the serpent. Okay, so now we all live in an imperfect world
Mhm.
with imperfect people, including the leaders of churches.
Mhm.
And I I have this stance based on the greatest commandment that was taught in the New Testament in Matthew, and that is to love God with all your heart, and to love your neighbor as yourself,
Mhm.
and with that means that I truly believe that you can teach the Bible and teach it to everybody
Mhm.
without a homosexual or a gay person coming out of that service feeling like they were beat down and it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
To me, you don't have to speak against something to stand for something.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to speak against someone's lifestyle to stand for love.
Right.
And I just believe that because really we had the a new commandment, and we had the great commission. And the great commission and the new commandment does not say that we cannot invite gay people into our Baptist church,
Right.
and that we cannot open our hearts and our minds and our arms to gay people who want to be married and to have children. Now, if you don't want to marry them in your church, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. That's, but you don't shut the doors to them.
Right.
I feel like that if I ever am 100% fully a part of another congregation, it has to be a place where I can invite all of my friends.
Yeah.
That's my gay friends, that's my black friends, that's my white husband, that's everybody.
Right.
And that is I
It's
don't love
hurtful.
that.
It's hurtful.
Yeah, it's very hurtful. It's very hurtful because see, I'm a hairstylist.
Mhm.
And I see and have contact with a lot of people, and
Mhm.
my ministry is that hair salon. And when I minister to people and tell them how much God loves them and Jesus died on the cross for them, and then they ask me where I go to church,
Yeah.
listen, you talk about shrinking back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there have been many times where I have actually not been truthful, and I say, like, "This hair salon is my church." And it is,
Right.
but I was affiliated with an air quote church.
Well,
So,
well,
yeah,
I
that
think it's a problem too because I think the church sees that as a project.
yeah, and there again, we gotta let God be God.
Exactly, and that was my next point that that's an area where that's between them and God, and that
Yeah,
ain't none of your business.
ain't none of your business.
Nope.
That ain't none of your business.
Nope.
None of nobody's business.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
Nope.
And then that leads me to, like, asking other people to come and pray for other people in the church in the name of, being prayer warriors when all you're really doing is gossiping about other people's business. No. Mm-mm. No, 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 no. I'll tell you, I wished I had a dollar for how many times someone told me when I first went back to that church, oh, you should seek pastoral counseling. I don't think so. I don't think so. There ain't a single person under this roof that I feel like is even capable of counseling me. And I certainly don't want to hear about my mess in the cafe 3 days later.
Right.
No. No. So pastoral counseling, that is really something that I don't understand. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to be, a spiritual mentor, but yeah, I just don't. Look, I've sat under some leaders that like, verbally abuse and beat their wives. Why in the hell would I go to them and ask them how I should be doing in my marriage? And they're supposed to be a pastoral counselor?
Right.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. When when I started my business as a life coach, I just kind of made things official. I didn't really change anything. I was already doing a lot of that work of coaching people. Making it a business was just a formal step for me. And I had always been taught to have a covering. Like you're supposed to have a covering. Okay. And for our listeners, I hope we're not talking Greek to you, because these are like churchy cliche terms that don't exist in other parts of our world. But a covering for me meant like I was aligning and just had someone who was going to pray for my business and somewhere that I could go for advice or wisdom. Okay. Well, that's not really what the other side of that thought covering meant. And so that was some of my disillusionment. But it was more seen by that church that my business was going to be like under their umbrella of ministry when they had nothing to do with each other. And the pastor said, but what you're doing is ministry. Okay, I'll give you that. But if you're a believer, your business is your ministry. Like if you want to use that ministry word, like as a life coach, yeah, that's my ministry. Okay, that's my platform to people, if that's what you want it, again, if you want to use that verbiage. But it has nothing to do with your church.
Right.
Or my church at the time. They didn't have anything to do with each other. And so, no, I'm not going to share with you the people that I'm coaching, and no, I'm not going to share with you why I'm coaching them. And no, I'm not comfortable with that. And I don't care that other psychologists that you have referred people to check in with you to let you know how those people are doing. No, I'm not doing that unless, no. If those people want to check in with you and say, hey, this is how we're doing, that's on them. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. So control, manipulation, yeah. There was a lot of that.
And let me tell you something. I would be furious if I knew that my psychologist was checking in with my pastor.
Right? Yeah.
Furious. And listen, really,
I think it's unethical.
It's extremely unethical.
I think it's illegal unless like there's a consent form somewhere. Like I don't think it's any of your business. Like, again, let God be God. If you're something you really need to know, just trust Holy Spirit to show you.
Yeah.
But let God be God, because we get all wrapped up in somebody else's business. It never ends well.
Never.
Never.
Yeah. And most likely,
that didn't end well.
And most likely you probably need to be cultivating and tending your own business and not mine.
Yeah.
Listen, I did want to go back to the prejudice, and this is how Alice and I have conversations. Like,
yeah,
it is. To the other, because we have so much to say. Like we told y'all, we have so much to say. But I did, Jesus challenged prejudice throughout the Bible.
Yeah.
And so I think that what's most important is, to me, in my heart, is that until that we can fully worship with everybody, with all colors of people, with all, whatever, homosexuals worshiping with heterosexuals, and Black people worshiping with white people, and all people of color.
Yeah.
I mean, really, not just to include Black and white people, but all people of color. That until the church changes, that those dynamics, and I think it's going to be a lot harder for our communities to
Mhm.
change. Like, I think it's, when we can go to church together and love each other in the house of the Lord, with a genuine love for each other and respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's going to continue to be hard in our communities and in our schools and in our workplaces and in our homes, and I don't know, it saddens me that the church is still so split. It
And
really does. And quiet.
yeah,
Yes, ma'am. And quiet. And
yeah,
quiet.
that saddens me immensely
Yeah,
that
it
the
does.
church
It
over
does.
the last course of all that we've seen as a nation
Yeah.
over the last couple years specifically, still remains quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you I do want to say this one thing, that I took a young lady to church with me one Sunday, and she had a newborn baby, and she was breastfeeding her baby. And her when she came back into the church, like, the baby had an explosive diaper. So she needed to go to the restroom. And so it was in the middle of, I don't really know, someone was, on the altar, and they were, speaking in a microphone. And I think they were, exhortating, just trying to
Right.
get, yeah, people to worship or whatever. And so someone from the middle of the church thought that it was extremely disrespectful that we were going to get up and go to the restroom. And so they proceeded to start waving their arms and telling us and motioning us to go back to sit down. In other words, like, don't get up, don't be walking about the church, and don't walk out of the sanctuary. Go back and sit down. And thank goodness that I had my wits about me, because I think that maybe if that would have happened 5 years ago, I probably would have gone back and sat down. But I did not. And I said, like, I motioned no, and, like, pointed at him, and we walked out the door. So by the time we get to the restroom, the young girl is crying.
Wow.
Because all she knows is that her baby has an explosive diaper, and she wants to clean her baby up, and she has just witnessed someone in the church act like a complete maniac. Okay. And it was embarrassing, and she didn't know what to do.
Right.
And this is what she told me. She said, I would have gone back and sat down had you not been with me. She said, and I would have been mad the whole time until I talked myself into grabbing my stuff and leaving. And she said, but I didn't because of you, but I will never come back. Um, that was probably one of the most embarrassing moments
Mm-hmm.
ever, having a visitor at church. And so I just want to say to all of the listeners that when you are in church, mind your business,
Yeah.
because you don't know. You don't know people's story. You don't just mind your business, But he acted, I mean, like, really, it was extra.
And if you get distracted easily, sit up front.
Yeah.
I mean, if it bothers you for people to get up and leave, because people are going to get up and leave, and you might have that person who gets up and walks out 4 times, and in your head, because I've done this, you think, if we were at the movie theater, you wouldn't do that. Okay, but you know what, they might have worked the night shift, and they might have to get up and walk out to keep from falling asleep. Who knows?
That's right.
Again, it ain't none of my business. If you get distracted easily, sit up front.
Yeah. And also too, it was kind of, I will say to you, that the person who did that, it was his wife that had the microphone.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah, that's interesting. So no one else did that, but it was his wife who had the microphone. Yeah. But my husband had a feeding tube for months. And so, he had to feed himself every 2 hours. And when he felt like accompanying me to church, we were at church for quite a while.
Hours.
Because
Right.
we didn't go to a church that started at 11 and ended at 12, okay? And
Right.
so, he would have to get up and go out and, feed himself.
Right.
And people had something to say about it, but you just don't know people's story. So mind your business.
Yeah.
Yeah, just mind.
How about when they tell you how to dress, KJ? What do you think about that?
Alice.
Tell me how you really feel.
Alice, now I'm a rebel. And after about the third time, I said, I don't think so. And why?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jesus never said anything about how we were.
Stand at the door. I need you to wear purple on the first Sunday, and I need you to wear orange on the second Sunday. Okay, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
And if you're going to attend this event, then I need you to wear pink and pearls.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't love that at all.
Yeah.
Really? I don't understand it, I think. And so what it comes down to is that I will not be controlled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It strips people of their identity, of their creative, of their uniqueness, of how God designed them to be. Just let people be.
Yeah.
Just let them alone.
Yeah.
Just let them alone. Okay, I have one more about control. And then I think we need to have two of these episodes. And so then we'll close this one out, and then we'll come back for our listeners, because they want to listen to all of it. And we're keeping them from doing something else right now, because they can't stop listening right now because we're so intriguing.
Okay.
And so, okay. So my last one about control, I think it's the last one, is, okay, so tell me about the young single girl who gets pregnant, who can't sing on the praise team because she's pregnant, but she can sing on the praise team after she has her baby, and her situation, she's still single. Nothing changed except she delivered a baby.
I mean, do you see how red my face is?
Yeah. So,
and I know the listeners are not, but I'll understand that. Your sin is more obvious than anybody else's.
In the moment. Just in the moment. So I was a part of a situation similar to this in a different setting, not in a church setting, but a spiritual setting. And excuse me, the leader that was in charge sought guidance from a host of other leaders as to the best way to handle the situation. It was an obvious life choice that was made that went against the rules of the place. That's as vague as I can be. The gist of it was, the other leaders said to this person, to the leader that I knew, if the heart of the person is to repent and they acknowledge that there was wrongdoing, or that they made a wrong decision, or whatever, acknowledgement of whatever, then that is open to then restoration, and then it's done. If that person who knowingly went against whatever, I'll say the rules were. So let's say the rule of the praise team, and we're just going to use that, is that you don't get pregnant if you're not married. Okay, let's say that's the rule. You did it. You went to the leader and you said, hey, this is what it is. I'm really sorry. I know that this was wrong. Whatever. You're remorseful. It's genuine between you and this leader, and they feel that it's genuine, and then you can be restored, and everybody goes on about their way. And again, it ain't none of nobody else's business. If that person is not, doesn't take ownership of it or anything, then that's a completely different situation. Then you handle that differently. Then yes, them stepping down is probably the right thing, because it's a heart issue. It's not about what happened. It's about how they feel about what happened, maybe. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if those things take place, then that's different if that's what's in place. But if we just are more concerned about appearances and we're more concerned about how it looks to everybody, and there's no restoration, there's no discipleship, there's no safe place for this person, because again, not knowing their circumstances, that's a fearful, hard place to be in. Hey, I was a single mom. I was pregnant out of wedlock. Okay. Like, yeah, let's add more shame to that situation and tell you that you can't worship God during this time like you could before. I struggle with that myself.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
And I know there's a lot of people that see that very differently. You can worship from your seat. Yeah, you can. You can. But you can worship from your seat before too, and after.
And yeah.
So what's the difference?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, I just tend to be heavier on the grace side than the legalistic side in situations anyway. I'm naturally that way.
Jesus died on the cross for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it ain't none of your business.
Okay, listeners, so we're going to end on that note. If you didn't get anything from us from this first episode, is KJ, tell them.
It ain't none of your business.
Ain't none of your business. You mind your own business and let them mind their own business and let God be God. What is it that they say? You be Jesus and you let God be God. And that's how we're in today. Okay. That's what we can call it. You be Jesus and let God be God.
That's good.
Okay. So stay tuned for part 2. And again, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, y'all.
Hey, you guys, we just want to say thank you today. We want to thank our listeners and those of you that have subscribed to the Simple Conversations podcast. Friends, thanks.
Hey y'all, this is KJ from Simple Conversations where grace meets strength. Thank y'all so much for listening and tuning in. If it weren't for y'all, there would be no reason for us to do this. Listen, we need your help. We need your support. So head on over to patreon.com/Simple Conversations and decide exactly how you want to be involved. For $5 a month, you would get access to behind the scenes content. For $25 a month, you would get that as well as a shout out on the podcast or fan input. As a supporter for $50 a month, you would get all that in the previous 2 tiers, as well as a one-time gift or book that Alice and I have read or are reading that we think would add value to your life. Or for $100 a month, we consider you family. You ever heard that before? That's friends that are so good that we consider you family. So you would get everything in the previous 3 tiers, as well as exclusive branded merchandise from Simple Conversations. So listen, our heart's desire is to do more and to be more. And so in order for us to do that, we need help. And so we're dependent on you to help us make that happen. So thanks for tuning in and thanks for your support. See y'all.